Hello, guys. Welcome back to TFD. Cordy here. So let's switch gears for a moment and talk about another team in the WNBA. One that isn't the Indiana Fever, but is still connected to the bigger situation around the league right now. I'm talking about the New York Liberty. The Liberty are facing a really interesting situation, especially now that we have a clearer idea of what the new CBA could mean for player salaries. This team basically built its roster around what they believe is their own big three. You've got Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, and Junkel Jones. And honestly, that's a serious trio. Now, here's where things get complicated. There are already reports that Breanna Stewart could be in line for a Supermax deal. If that happens, you have to assume Sabrina Ionescu will be looking at something very close to that range as well. Junkel Jones might be getting a bit older, but she's still incredibly valuable, and she's likely going to command a pretty big contract too. And you see that WNBA new CBA creates complicated path for the Liberty to bring back their big three. All right. When you really look at this new salary cap and the new CBA and the WNBA, something becomes pretty obvious. The league might be moving away from the idea of a big three. I think what we're going to start seeing instead is more of a big two model. 2 star players surrounded by solid role players and a supporting cast. Because when you start doing the math with these new contracts, it gets really hard to pay 3 elite players top-level money and still build a balanced roster. And that's where this conversation circles back to the Indiana Fever and their situation with Caitlin Clark, Aaliyah Boston, and Kelsey Mitchell. Now remember, Caitlin Clark isn't even at the Supermax level yet, but the financial future is clearly heading in that direction. I think the Fever originally believed bringing Kelsey Mitchell back would be pretty straightforward, but now I'm not so sure they feel that confident. The big surprise in all of this seems to be a clause in the new CBA that allows rookie contracts to escalate much higher than people expected. And that's where Aaliyah Boston's situation becomes really interesting, because reports suggest her earnings could potentially reach around $1.1 million under certain conditions. So, let's take a look at this. Despite the looming uncertainty regarding a new collective bargaining agreement, Liberty General Manager Jonathan Kolb said last September that he had the utmost confidence Breanna Stewart, Sabrina Ionescu, and Junkel Jones would return in 2026. Now, with a tentative CBA in place, the pathway to bring back the Liberty's big three may be complicated, but not impossible. Each member of the Liberty Star Trio is eligible for roughly a $1.4 million Supermax contract. Given that the WNBA has a hard cap, though, signing multiple players to Supermax deals is not feasible. Heck, signing even one Supermax contract could be tough for contending teams to pull off. A challenge with the new collective bargaining agreement, ratified Monday via a unanimous vote by more than 90% of the players' union members, but still pending the WNBA's Board of Governors approval, is that the Supermax rose much more than the salary cap. Uh-oh, that's interesting. There will undoubtedly be a middle-class squeeze, and teams wanting to sign multiple stars will have to get creative in how they distribute their money. One way to make this work is by signing the trio to extended deals, giving them long-term security. Multiple sources have indicated that top free agents are seeking multi-year contracts. The salary cap is expected to be $7 million, up from about $1.5 million last year. Meanwhile, the Supermax carries a 20% cap hit. That's rough. A significant jump from the previous CBA, where the Supermax accounted for roughly 16.5%. Teams are also now required to carry 12 players. However, the 2 developmental spots, players 11 and 12, will not count toward the salary cap. Signing a Supermax contract is a status symbol in the NBA. Will that also become the case in the WNBA? Or will simply being able to call yourself a million-dollar player be enough? Stewart signed last year for $208,000, which was roughly 13.8% of the team's salary cap. If she were to take that same cap percentage in 2026, it would be about $967,951. But she's not signing for that. She's just not. In 2025, she signed for about $40,000 less than the Supermax. In 2026, she would theoretically be giving up around $432,000 by doing the same thing again. That seems unlikely. Given Stewart's star power and her role in helping push the new CBA forward, earning less than $1 million seems pretty unrealistic. Arguments can also easily be made for Ionescu and Jones to earn million-dollar salaries. If all three made $1 million, they would take up about 42.9% of the Liberty's salary cap in 2026. A starting five taking up 50 to 60% of the cap might actually be doable for New York, especially if Leonie Fiebig is still early in her rookie-scale contract. I've got to tell you, this situation that's developing right now in the WNBA is about to become a league-wide issue. It's not just one team dealing with it. The new salary structure, the rising contracts, and the new CBA rules are going to force a lot of teams to make some very difficult decisions. And honestly, when you look at the Indiana Fever, their situation kind of shows just how complicated this is going to get. Take players like Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham. I've seen people online saying Lexi might sign for the league average salary. I just don't see that happening. If Lexi keeps improving and continues to build her value around the league, somebody is going to pay her more than that. I wouldn't be surprised if she ends up getting $700,000 or $800,000 from a team that really wants her skill set. That's just the reality when teams start competing for quality role players. Then you look at Sophie Cunningham. A lot of her value comes from more than just basketball. She has name recognition, a strong personality, and a brand that markets well. You could absolutely see an expansion team looking at someone like Sophie and saying, "We want that visibility." Expansion teams want players who bring attention, endorsements, and a recognizable face to the franchise. Sophie checks a lot of those boxes. And the same logic applies to Kelsey Mitchell. If you're an expansion team and you want instant offense, Kelsey Mitchell is exactly the kind of player you look at. She can score, she's proven in the league, and she doesn't bring a lot of drama with her. For a new team trying to establish itself quickly, that's extremely valuable. Even a team like the Chicago Sky could look at the situation. Ever since Chennedy Carter left, the Sky have really been missing consistent offensive production. Mitchell sitting out there as a potential option would be very interesting if Chicago wanted to bring in a reliable scorer. But this brings us back to the real challenge for the Fever. You already have two franchise cornerstones in Caitlin Clark and Aaliyah Boston, and both players are going to be extremely important to the team's future. So the big question becomes, how do you keep everyone? When you start doing the math on a potential starting lineup, things get tight really fast. If you estimate contracts around $1 million, $1.4 million, and then round things out toward a $7 million salary cap, suddenly your starting five alone could take up around $4.4 million of the cap. That's before you even start filling out the rest of the roster. That's why this is going to be such a huge storyline moving forward. Teams are going to have to get creative because keeping talented rosters together under these new financial rules is not going to be easy. Anyway, let me know what you think about all of this. And if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next video.